Let's see what time we got here. It's 7:30ish. I guess we can get started with things.
Okie doke.
So we actually had a question from Bob Gruenberg here in the middle for me, BobG, and he talked about you bought a used focuser for your scope and it doesn't fit. I'd like to know the best route to take now. What happened, Bob?
Let me go get it so I can hold it up and show you guys.
Okay.
Hold on.
We must solve a problem first.
That's what it's about.
I've got Mike Chipnick photos.
So I've got forgetting all the names, but it's like an Orion something or another dual speed.
It's disappearing into the background. Yeah, I see what you've got there.
Yeah, if I hold it, if I hold it close, it can see. So it's got basically what's going on is this inner circle here doesn't fit inside the circle on my tube. I know it's going in and out here. It's because I got.
Well, then you got to cut the circle on your tube bigger.
Well, yeah, I wanted cloudy nights, and then they said, do not cut the tube. So
oh, well, don't listen to them. So why did they say not to cut the tube? This is a reflector, right? Yeah, I can see the curve for the reflector.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. I mean, it's like a
right.
Here, but anyway, this is like, it's big, and I got it from a guy on Astromart.
Okay.
And he was very nice and everything. I said, measure between the things there, and I didn't pay like total attention to what would fit and what wouldn't. It's just my focus. I haven't talked to you guys too much about that, but it's like one of my bigger problems. I'd like to do some sort of autofocus or some kind of like software. I know the SharpCap has a means of doing that. I haven't explored it too much yet.
Does your focuser have a motor on it?
No, it's a standard. It's little. Okay. It's the crappy Celestron one that's on there, on the scope to start with. But this is nice because it's two, dual speed. It's got this real fine adjustment. And so I'd like to put it on there. And I was looking at it thinking I could cut it. And then somebody said, a place called Moonlight. Got some animals in the barnyard there or something. Different adapters. And I thought if I put I started thinking of Tim, because I thought Tim could build a little interface, where we get a lot.
Wait a minute, I'm not clear on what doesn't fit. You mean the curve on the bottom of your focuser doesn't fit?
No, it's not a curve problem. This came off of 8-inch, some other type of 8-inch, and the screw holes don't fit into the don't line up with the screw holes I have on my tube.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. And then this inner circle is bigger than the circle that's in there.
So when you screw the focuser in, it should go into the tube and block part of the light stream, but it doesn't. It bumps into the tube, right?
Yeah. So just picture if you got a 3-inch circle and you've got a 3 1/4-inch tube. A 3 1/4-inch tube won't fit into a 3-inch circle.
So you've got a 10-inch tube.
No, I'm talking about this tube.
The moving part of the focuser.
I'm talking about the focus going on the tube. I'm talking about that. This thing sticks out a little bit.
Yeah. As
does the other one.
Yeah.
And this circle is bigger than the circular hole on the OTA.
Okay, you have no other option with that focuser than to drill new holes for the screws and make the hole where the focuser tube should go into the telescope tube to make it bigger.
Well, not according to the guys on Cloudy Night.
I don't care what they say. You're either going to have to get a new focuser, or you're going to have to make the tube smaller somehow, which you can't do, or you're going to have to get one of these Harry Potter things where the tube is smaller on the outside but bigger on the inside. So
yeah. Well, I mean, these guys
you have no option.
I thought an adapter could be made, but it's going to move the back focus out a little bit.
Yes, it is.
Concern.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it would probably be a good idea to do that because you have the Newtonian that comes with the Celestron, right? Or is that right? Or
Yeah.
okay, so because that one is not made for astrophotography, you can do it, but the focuser does not allow the use of a coma corrector, if I'm not mistaken. So if you want a 2-inch coma corrector with a new focuser, you can do that. But with the one that's on that system, it's not possible, as far as I know.
So you are thinking of this for primarily for imaging then, not primarily visual?
Yeah, imaging. And
okay. Now, when you get a visual telescope, it's made so that the focal plane of the primary mirror sticks about 1/4 to a 1/2 inch above the top of the focuser tube when it's at its maximum in position. But that won't reach the focal plane. You need more back focus than that. So you're going to have to eat it. If you want to change something that was designed for visual and you want to use it for photography, you're going to have to go down to the other end of the tube and drill 3 new holes in the tube to move your primary mirror assembly up in the tube. Or you're going to have to drill that new hole for your focuser farther up the tube than where it is. And it's not a problem to fill that in. What's your tube made out of?
It's like, metal, some kind of steel.
Well, there's a wide range of metal. Steel, aluminum.
I don't know. I mean, you guys have seen Celestron tubes. It's a basic Newtonian.
Probably aluminum.
Probably aluminum.
Yeah, it's probably aluminum.
It seems like it's like shiny sheet metal.
It's a sheet metal. My Z12 was all sheet metal, and I cut the tube in half because I wanted to convert it to a collapsible.
Oh.
So yeah, you can just cut it with a jigsaw. Now, I didn't have to get a round hole. I just had to cut it off straight. But yeah, for a round hole, I'm not quite sure what I would do with a jigsaw. Might not work. But
yeah.
Well, if you're just trying to fit the eyepiece part of it in there to make the hole slightly bigger, and the metal is fairly thin, you might get away what is known as a nibbler, which takes out a little chunk of metal every time you do it, and it gives you a little bit more control what you're taking.
Yeah. By the way, back to what you said, Jerry, you said the focuser, the tube doesn't go inside the optical tube, and it does actually.
No, it will a little.
Yeah.
But it probably, that's for visual. It probably won't when because you're going to be racking it way out to do no, you have it in to do get at the focal plane.
Yeah.
But what I did with one telescope, which Tom Whittemore always accuses me of not planning well, because I have 2 sets of 3 holes down at the bottom of the tube, one for if I want to use it for visual, and then one farther up the tube if I want to use it for photography. So the focal plane sticks out farther. But what you can do, because one time I moved the eyepiece up too and made a new hole. So I took a piece of very thick shim metal, brass, and I covered it over the hole from the inside. And then I filled it in with epoxy, and the epoxy that had metal shavings in it that matched the metal aluminum tube that I had at the time. And then I after that got hard, I sanded it and painted it over, and you couldn't tell that the tube ever had a hole there. Then I drilled a new hole for the eyepiece at the right position for the focuser.
Yeah, most of these back focus problems are with DSLRs, and most people nowadays they use astro cameras, which go much further into the tube than a DSLR. Yeah. So you may just want to try it. It will probably work.
Yeah, I suggest
Z12. What I did was to make it work, I moved the mirror up by about 1 inch by just getting longer screws in the hardware store. I didn't have to do anything special and moved them up 1 inch. And then I got a system camera, the Fuji. It's a mirrorless DSLR, and that also saves you a bunch of stuff. And then you can get a T- adapter instead of a T adapter. That's also, and you put it all together, and then I think also a coma corrector also helped. Anyway, altogether, I was able to make it work for visual Newtonian.
Yeah, I'm just my only fear was like once that thing's cut, it's cut. It's like,
one thing. What was your fear? I didn't catch that.
Oh, I said once I cut the optical tube, it's cut. There's no undoing that.
Well, if you cut the optical tube, that's true, but you can patch it back together, and you can fill any hole you've made in it. That's not a problem.
Oh, okay.
So,
If it's steel or metal, you could always get stuff from the hardware store that's like a 32nd inch thick. They use it for duct work. It's heavy duty, and you can bend it just a little bit, just to kiss the curve of your tube, and it'll look okay. This is what they call a nibbler.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
if you notice that this thing goes up and down, it's a tiny shear, and so that
But it leaves square
if you
holes in
find
your-
that you don't need much material taken away, you
Yeah.
can use that. You can figure out the outline and then nibble
Yeah.
it away.
But eventually you're going
And,
to be in there with a half round file making the tool and the tube round.
Yeah.
Your first step, what I recommend you doing, is make a 1-to-1 scale or a 1-to-1/2 scale drawing on a long sheet of paper of your mirror and figure out where the focal point is and what your illumination of the mirror is, where the secondary is, and then the distance to the camera that you want, and then you've got to adjust then the telescope to give you those dimensions.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean? It'll let you place all of the primary mirror holes and the eyepiece focuser hole.
Yeah. Well, so this gets mixed in with the fact that I'm in the market for another telescope, and kind of sort of leaving us behind after what my friend Rob said with the Edge HD. I've been looking into those for a flat field, astro picture telescope. So, and he still hasn't solved his problem. His is like, you guys have been good sending him all the emails and everything, but it's, he's got a lot bigger problem than I do. I don't want a giant mirror like that, but
Hi,
but
Tim.
anyway, I'm
Bob?
thinking maybe of, what I did was I had it all apart and I was ready to cut it. I have some snips and I go, no, I'm not going to do this now. I don't want to do it just like a, half-ass thing. So I'm going to wait a little bit on this and try to figure out what my longer term goals are. And another side thing, as long as I got the floor here, go to you, Jerry, is, you're still there? I don't see Jerry.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Oh, there you are. Got moved around when Tim came on. I contacted OptCore or whatever and said, hey, I tried to act like, we have a 10% discount because I want to buy this ASI 553 MC Pro Astro camera. And I'm trying to get them, somebody to give me a discount. I figured, why not? So I called them twice yesterday and they're very unresponsive. I mean, you have a long message, a long waiting time, and then they go, leave your message. I leave a message. They said, we'll contact you back. They didn't. I called again in the afternoon, same thing, left another message.
Yeah.
Didn't contact me today. So I contacted Agena Astro, which I bought stuff before from, and said, hey, Opt will give us a 10% discount. How about you? I said, I'm with the Santa Barbara Astronomy Club. And they responded after a few hours and they said, sorry, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Orion might give you a discount too. They sometimes do that.
okay, maybe I'll contact them then.
But OPT is hit hard by this COVID lockdown stuff, and they've short-staffed themselves.
Yeah.
So they don't respond well.
But it's like, come on, they got a little profit going, give me a discount, give me something, So anyway, I don't know if anybody's familiar with that camera too. From what I read, it's just a really, it's a big step up from what I've got with the.
Who makes it?
It's ZWO. It's one of the ASI cameras they have.
Yeah.
So they're just unbelievable pictures out of that. I've been able to get. I'll show you later. I've been able to get some pretty good pictures out of what I have, but I got it because it was a somewhat discount planetary camera. And now I'm more interested in deep space objects and, for what I'm doing.
I think Bob Richard has that camera.
Yeah, I do. A couple of comments I'd like to make, Bob, that might be helpful to you. I have an 11-inch Celestron Edge. And a couple of things to really keep in mind. The back focus on Schmidt Cassegrain is great. I mean, I've never had any trouble with any camera I've used with back focus problems. This is a long run. And the other thing that's really great is that you have a choice of 3 different f ratios.
Yeah, yeah.
F10, or you can go to f2, or you can put a field flattener in there and focal reducer and go to 6.3, f6.3.
Yeah.
The Edge has a specialty, and it's expensive because the optics are different from a standard. But that's a really great telescope.
Yeah.
What?
You have the Hyperstar? You do the F1?
Yeah. Well, I use the Hyperstar with my previous C11 that Bruce has now, but the Hyperstar is just fantastic. I mean, it turns it into an astrograph. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing, see, you'd mentioned the back foot. There was something else I wanted to mention while we're on this. Well, anyway, it comes to me out.
Which GWO cameras? It's ASI. What is it, Bob?
So the one I'm thinking of getting is they call it the ASI 553 MC Pro. It's a cooled CMOS camera color. It's 1-shot color.
Ooh.
And it's a 3008 by 3008 pixel. It's nice. I mean, they're coming out with this other one that's the 2600, something that's like,
is it color or black and white?
Pardon?
Is it color or black and white?
That's color. So any of the ASI ones where if they say MM, it's mono, and if they say MC, it's color. So
it's color. Okay.
Yeah, that one's color.
Now,
And that's because I'm a little lazy. I'm not willing to do 3 times or 4 times the number of shots right now, but in the future I will be. So.
Yeah, I know. I have the ZWO planetary camera. It's 290. I think it's MC. That's a great camera. It's lightweight.
Yeah.
It's not that expensive. Does a fabulous job on lunar and planetary stuff. I'll be making a presentation later on, putting it together.
Okay.
You can see a lot of these photos.
Now, the
Okay,
reason
great.
that
Yeah,
the reason that there's such a good experience with the back focus on a Celestron catadoptric is because it doesn't focus the same way the Newtonian does by moving the eyepiece in and out. It moves the secondary mirror back and forth.
Oh, that's how the Edge.
So the
Edge
camera stays in roughly the same position. It's the secondary that moves.
Yeah, the
Secondary
camera's
primary
mounted
is the primary, isn't it, Jerry? Doesn't the primary move?
I don't know. It might be the primary. Is it?
Yeah, I
primary?
think it's the primary moves. Yeah.
Primary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right, because the secondary is rigid to that glass window.
Right. Yeah.
But it has to be
It's a
primary.
primary. Yeah. Your focus is achieved by actually moving the primary mirror.
Right.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's interesting with the Edge HD, from what I've seen, when you use the Hyperstar, you're actually removing, one of the magnification mirrors on it, to where you're putting the camera in and right in the front there. And it's an interesting setup, it looks really versatile to me. I really like that.
It does, yeah. Well, what you're doing is when you take that secondary mirror out and you put the Hyperstar lens in there, that what happens is it changes the focal ratio and the focal length. So the shorter the focal length, the less the magnification.
Yeah.
So, but the wider the field of view, so you get a really wide field of view. And so I was able to, with the C11 Bruce has, to take a picture of the entire Rosette Nebula.
Yeah.
Just without F2.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is a great.
One other comment on OPT is that, when I thought they got rid of that discount, and I'm just saying they used to have, they did all kinds of stuff. You'd have a card that had your number on it, and it was about a 5% discount, now 10. And then something happened there. I think they had a club discount, and then at one time, I think they were going to incorporate it. But I might make the comment that when you call down there, sometimes you get one person that might be more into photography, and the next time you call down, you might get somebody that's more familiar with the telescopes. So I'd give them a ring again and see if you might pick up somebody. I can't remember the guy down there. It's really, really knowledgeable. But if you can get him, you're going to get some kind of answer.
Okay, yeah, so far I haven't reached anybody, and I was just sort of trying to, instead of saying, hey, do you give a discount? I was saying, hey, our club does get a discount, and just have him say, and plus I wanted to say, I'm ready to make the order now, you know, and they've got to respect business, you know, it's like,
Sure.
but
Sure.
it didn't work.
Well, you know, call back. You might get a different person. I'm telling you, some
Yeah.
people respond differently.
Well,
he
so
didn't get
far
anybody.
I got nobody. I got
Yeah.
2 calls. I got nobody. I just messages. So
Oh God,
No, that's, well,
that's COVID related.
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Bob,
the
can I
AC
ask
the AC
you, are you getting a new mount to go with the C11 or a CGXL or?
Well, I'm thinking of that. I was thinking I haven't looked. I've started looking into that, the CGX or the CGXL, and then I just started looking into other mounts like a non-Celestron, because one thing that has thrown me off a little bit on the AVX thing was just the guy who took it apart and, you know, found out it had a bunch of, you know, Chinese axle grease inside there. You know, you know, and even like I'm reading the manual on some of these. Well, actually, not so much Celestron, on the ZWO, the manual for the 224 camera. You can tell that a Chinese guy wrote it. You know, the English isn't even correct in it. You know, it's like, it's like, couldn't they have somebody from the U.S. read this? It's like I could fix this in 5 minutes.
They don't. They don't.
Yeah.
So,
So
again, on the mounting, sorry to jump in here, but I've just been through some of this stuff because I recently bought a C11 Edge, and I put it on an iOptron's CEM60. It's a central mounting.
That's what I was looking at. Yeah.
And that is one fantastic mount for the money.
That's
iOptron.
Yeah.
I have two iOptron mountings, and I had a 45 equatorial and then this one, and they are so much smoother. I mean, there's no comparison with the Celestron mountings. I wouldn't waste my time on the Celestron.
Yeah, that's exactly what the direction I was heading in, just from my own research, was the iOptron one. That people love that. So.
Oh, it's a great mounting. It's smooth, tracks really well, points well. You know, it's accurate.
Yeah.
It has been discontinued, by the way, but they have a replacement model, I think. So.
That's true. HenkA is correct. They've replaced it with a newer model, but it's certainly really a great mounting.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
after
Bob, the AC533, to get back to that, is a really good imager. If you want, you can go on the Sky Searchers, and there was a guy who just recently got it and did some researches, but he got very good results. So and others as well. So don't worry about that. It's a very good camera.
Okay. Yeah, you know, one thing that's kind of in its favor is I've looked on every used site I could find, and nobody's selling them used. You know, so that tells you,
good sign.
That tells you something. You know, so
yes.
Yeah, my CGX, it probably was one of the first models I bought it used. And look, you're really in good condition, but inside, I found a little piece of metal inside. Plus, it's not tracking very well. Something's wrong that way. And people have complained about the early models and the stepper motors inside not being bearings were not good enough. So, yeah, Celestron, I'm disappointed. I think. Time to try some different type of mount.
Yeah.
What I wind up doing with my Celestron mount was hyper-tuning it. I don't know if the newer models have a version, but before I had the CGE. It's not the really old one, but it's a fairly new one, and I couldn't take any pictures with a C8 on it. Afterwards, I did. So
there are some people on the internet, I forget who, but they will hyper tune your mount no matter what it is.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Basically grinding the gears so that they fit real nice.
You wind up polishing and taking out the grease. And another thing too is the tolerances for the worm sitting into the main gear is
Oh, yeah.
not always accurate, and so they provide special shims so you can mate it up better and reduce the periodic error.
Interesting.
Okay, sorry about that. I had something in the oven that's going over. Had to turn the oven off. Thanks for all the input. I appreciate it. I you know, with a 553 and everything, I thought I should wait till I talk to you guys, get some input, and then same thing with the mount, same thing with this thing. So I appreciate all your guys' input.
What do they run about?
This mount, I mean the focuser or what?
No, the GWO.
That's $899 is the list price. 900.
Again, which model is it? Because I have bad audio here.
The ASI 553.
533.
No, I think it's 553.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
Ah, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just ASC 553. Okay, the one that I was talking about from the Sky searches, there was a 533, so ignore that. But it doesn't show anything for ASI 553 on the opt site.
Oh, hold on a minute here. Let me gotta go to my internet here. I know because they've been like typing it in incessantly, looking all over the place.
Yeah, it says nothing found for ASI 553.
Oh, you're right. You're right. It is 533. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm saying it wrong. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah.
Well, it looks neat.
And you know what's funny is when ZWO was making these, according to the Astro Backyard guy, originally they were including a 2-band filter with it, you know, just for the list price. Oh, the other thing is no amp glow. That's another thing that's really nice.
No what?
No amp glow.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's got
That's
amp glow right there.
No, that's a comparison of you know, amp another one that has amp glow versus this
okay.
one with no amp glow for the same exposure. Yeah, no, they're showing how it doesn't have it. That's an interesting thing because
Is that what's happening to Henk's photo? Do you have amp glow, Henk, on that photo you took?
No, that is not amp glow. And by the way, I can show the final result of that if you let me share.
sure.
Okay, let's see here. Now we'll start sharing just a second here.
I like the original.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Actually, I sent it to, hold on, let's share screen. Okay, here. Share. Okay.
Oh,
I mean, it
wow.
looks decent. It's, you know, this is actually, I should show that this is a combination of 4 images. What I did was I had 4 autosave tips from 4 different nights, and I combined them by stacking them in DSS. DSS will let you do that under the condition that the size of the images is all the same, because that's the one condition that it has. So I had to resize them first so they are all the same, and then you can just load them as subs and stack them again. And the first version that came out of that is kind of funny to see. If I, oh, here it is. Yeah, it's this guy here. Oops, next. Okay, hold on. I'm messing up here. Let me just.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So well, whatever. So you see that these are 4 images overlaid on top of each other, and one was taken at a different orientation at like 90 degrees. And I stacked them all nicely. That's how I started, and then I just cropped it to what seemed to matter. And you see that there's a lot of glow in there. And I started using some new features in GIMP. GIMP does not have a removable feature for these trends, for these what do you call that? Gosh, I'm not good at my words. Huh?
Flare, diffraction flare.
Yeah, these flares, whatever. But yeah, gradients. Sorry, but they have a tool that lets you create gradients. So what you do is you create a second layer of your image, and then you start working, creating a gradient that looks like the other layer on the original image. And you can do that by selecting the color at the points at the begin point and the end point. So it's for a linear gradient. And then it will match that gradient and it will black the rest out. So that's actually fairly easy. And then you just subtract it from the original image. And that's how I got some of this work done. And you can see that there's a blue glare over the whole image, but it got rid of quite a decent amount.
Did a good job.
Yeah, the final result, where is it? I have to go back. Yeah. Yeah, here. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, Alnitak is a little too bright for my taste. Oh, and by the way, while I was processing this, I also removed all the stars. So I first ran on the stacked image. After I cropped it, I ran it through StarNet++. It gives you an image, and I can show you that as well if you're interested. It's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, I was playing around with that today, actually.
Yeah. So this is the starless image.
Yeah, those are very cool.
Yeah, they are cool. Hold on a second. So yeah, so that's what I started out with. And then in the end, you just overlay the original autosave.tif, and then you just crank up the stars a little bit, not too much. It's not perfect. You can see some weird blobs here, artifacts, and they also show up in the final image. And I sort of manually blurred it out a bit. You can see I've been working, over here. I've been doing that and here a little bit and so on. So I just copied and pasted areas of the surrounding and nearby and copied it in there and smoothed it out a little bit. So it's kind of ugly, but altogether it's it's okay.
Yeah.
Like the horse head itself, I mean you can see there is some transparency there in the mane of the horse, and there's some glow at the top. But that's kind of features that people kind of like. And you can tell that the stars are not as pronounced as they were in the original image. They are a little artificial small almost. But what I try to do is I try to bring out the color. So I blow it up in the autosave.tif and use the curves to give it some orange and some blue colors.
What's the name of that program again, Henk?
StarNet++. They have a version for Windows and maybe also for others. I don't know.
StarNet++.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
they have it as part of PixInsight too. It's included in PixInsight. So
okay, yeah. But StarNet++ is free and it's used a lot by the sky searchers.
To try that out. Check it out.
It takes a long time to run, by the way. It took on my computer, which is from 2011. It takes about a half hour or so.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. But it almost never fails. When it does it, it's hard to make it better, I would think. So it's definitely
that's great. That's
Anyway.
Yeah. One of the things I've toyed around with is in my galaxy photos is being able to take out all the stars which are in our galaxy. Yeah. Because if you did that, that's how the galaxy would appear if you were outside our galaxy looking at it.
Right.
And we get so used to seeing all these stars around, but actually there aren't any stars around. If you went outside our galaxy, this would be great to use just to see what it would look like outside the galaxy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and the funny thing is I used GIMP and I exported while I was stacking those 4 auto-TIFFs, it was asking me, do you want to fill in the background? And I said, yes, do it with the background, with the foreground color, which was black. And it did that. And then apparently it added a transparency layer for that. And later on, after I processed all these images, I saved it back out as a TIFF. And eventually I had a bunch of TIFF files and I wanted to delete some and it wouldn't let me. I tried it from the command line. I tried it as supervisor. I tried rebooting just in case some other process had a hold of it. Nothing worked. And eventually I started searching on the internet and there were other people who had used GIMP. It turns out it's not GIMP's fault, but it's Internet File Explorer. I mean, Windows File Explorer that has the problem. If you close Windows File Explorer, which means that most of the windows on your desktop will disappear, and just leave a command window there and then delete it, it works fine. And then you can bring Windows Explorer back again. So just so you know, there was that took me like almost a whole afternoon on Sunday to figure that out.
Yeah.
And we know how much you like Windows, right?
Oh God.
So
Yeah.
everyone, can you all see this Horsehead Nebula image here?
Yeah.
Yes.
So who claims this image?
I guess it's mine, as I can see the defects that are hard to get out. This is taken with a C11 with a 0.63 focal reducer and a central CDS600 camera, which is basically an XTI600 in a cooling chamber. And I used 30-second exposures for this, and had a lot of light pollution and stuff. I couldn't take much longer because the stars would have been totally blasted out.
I got a question. When I've pointed at, when you're taking it, you have to know exactly where you're pointing, right? Because especially with like a 30-second exposure, you can't see the horse head at all, right? So you've got to make sure you've got it pointed right, or
30-second exposure is just barely visible. You could just barely make out this little line.
Okay.
If you enhance it a little bit on the capture program, this is visible because this is really bright, but this is pretty faint.
Lots of things that I take pictures of have that problem, that you can't really see it well.
Yeah.
So I just take a long shot just to see that I'm framed right.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily going to include in my stack. And then I just remember the pattern of stars where it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that works.
Actually, sometimes what you can do is you can, if it's got relatively bright stars, like where you can see where the really bright ones are, you might be able to just barely see them in fine focus and just move it from there. Doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes you're lucky enough. I think in the case of this one, there's a couple of stars that with it, I was able to move it to the proper place. And by the way, this was unchilled. Even though it had a chiller on there, I had the fan was starting to come loose and hitting the finger guard, so I turned it off and just took the picture. So this is a stack up of a bunch of 30-second unchilled exposures.
So you do darks and flats and bias and everything too, or?
I did that. That's how I got it to look like this. Yes.
Okay.
What's the total exposure?
It's a total of about an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay, nice.
My system's kind of slow. And this camera, wow, it was pretty good camera in its day and starting to show its age. I mean, all the new sensors are so much better. They have lower noise and higher quantum efficiencies and all that. Again, this is nothing more than the guy who's Korean. He bought these cameras, took out the guts, threw away things he didn't need, and stuck them in a metal case with a Peltier cooler.
Okay.
So,
Very nice.
Hey Bob, were you able to do something with the image that I sent you, or?
I've still been playing around with it, and I've been spending so much time, and I actually bought a book on PixInsight. This one guy in a YouTube video, said, "Oh, I've been reading this book," so I ordered it, and I've had it 2 days now, and I've been looking at. There's only one book on that, and so I thought, this has got to be good, but I haven't had much luck yet, so I still gotta. It's going to take time. In fact, every night since last meeting that I could go outside and shoot, I've been out there, and I think it's either 2 nights or 3 nights because of weather I couldn't. But So in the last 2 nights, I haven't been able to. It's been clouded, but so it's still on my list, and I actually was working on it for about an hour and a half before the meeting, and I couldn't make enough progress to show anything. But I'm gonna play with it again.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Yeah. And so, by the way, my image was 6 hours altogether because it was the combination of 4 nights of imaging with blurry pictures, but in the end, it sort of worked out.
Wow.
Good.
Yeah, the original Orion one, the M42, that was 30 seconds also. And I had taken a series of, that was only, the other one, I think that was only like about 60 seconds or, yeah, it wasn't very, very long. Because what I was trying to do is get the central part, and actually what I tried doing also was taking it with 10-second exposures, and got about the same amount. So I decided to use the 30-second ones just because it would lower the noise, the apparent noise. And I also did dithering and flat field bias and darks. Yeah, a lot. This almost has the three-dimensional aspect of it, because a lot of times, like the lower left, that's usually like almost as bright as the brightest part, and you really don't see the fact that it's in front and it's like not glowing as well as what's behind it where the trapezium is. The only thing I don't particularly like about this, and I think I had it properly focused. I might be getting some sort of softness because of the need 0.63 field corrector on this.
It looks like you've got good focus there because the small stars are crisp, but the bright ones are blown out.
It could be what I need to do is take a bunch of 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and 30 seconds and combine them. I'm just not conversant in, layering and all that. I just never took the time to learn it. I guess I'm going to have to learn.
Yeah, you can also just stack them together. If you just take like 5-second, 10-second, and 30-second images, and just adding the 5 and the 10 seconds just smooths everything out. So even without layering, you can just stack them in DSS.
Hank, you told me last time that what you do is you use layers to the trapezium area here in Mike's is kind of blown out. So you take separate photos at a shorter time, and so they're more distinct, and then you layer them, correct?
So I let DSS layer them, and I don't use GIMP for that or Photoshop, but you could if you wanted to. I'm just too lazy for that. If I can get a halfway decent result with DSS by just taking exposures of different durations, then I'm fine with that.
It's kind of funny. If you look at the videos that Christopher Go did for whittling his camera, he kind of says, I'm kind of lazy about it. This is what I do. And he instead of using all the horsepower, he has a certain amount of subset of things that he knows that he can get away with to get the best results for his images.
Yeah. But those bright stars, it might actually be an effect of the CCD that you're using. I don't know exactly what kind of camera, but there are some that actually let the
Canons are known for blowing out stars like that.
Yeah. Oh, it's a DSLR. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That could
It's just
be.
they put the guts in a chilled chamber with a TEC. So.
Right.
Mike, I'm really impressed with the gray clouds there. Like you say, a three-dimensional effect. It really stand out. I'm curious, it seems like when I would take a photo of this, I'd get a blue color.
Yes. I think it just happens to be, this was taken with an Optolon Pro filter to help with the light pollution. So that might have changed it a little bit. And also on DSS, sometimes it's a little hard to get the peaks of the histogram. You know, and in this case here, the histogram of the red was much wider as opposed to the blue, which is like almost vertical. And so there's sort of like a general curve over each one. It's almost like a Gaussian curve. It's really hard to get those to be exactly the same. The controls aren't all that great. You have to.
You know, since we're talking about this, I wouldn't mind showing that, because I was a few weeks ago, I was suggesting that it would only take 5 minutes to go through it, but DSS is actually not bad.
Yeah.
If you would allow me to share the screen, I've got an auto-saved TIFF of the first night when I did the Horsehead, and you can, with not too much work, you can get a pretty decent image. So let me just share the screen here and load it. It's really.
What is DSS?
DeepSkyStacker.
It's a piece of software.
Yeah.
It's another free software that other free software use. It's sort of like, it sounds like recursion.
Yeah. So here, this is a DeepSkyStacker, and I'm going to just load open a picture file, and I'm going to load the autosave.tiff. So this is normally the output of. Oh boy, let's see here. Equipment, objects, Horsehead, 21011, autosave the tip. Okay, so I'm starting with the endpoint of the stacking. So normally you just stack and it can take hours, but I'm just loading the output of that. So this is what you see, and it usually looks pretty bleak when you look at it. So it slowly shows up. So what you can see at the bottom, this is the fun part. So you see those those peaks there. What I try to do first is I link all the colors here. So I check the link.
Those peaks are off screen for me. Can you kind of raise the whole image you're showing?
You can't see the whole screen? Is that what you're saying?
I can see down to just below the blue band, but I can't see the peaks. The bottom half of the peaks, it looks like, are missing. Is it possible for you to move maybe shrink it a little so it's not so magnified?
I'm seeing the whole thing.
I think we're seeing the same. Let me.
Okay.
You may be. We see. I don't think it's. Let me just try that, and then let me tell you how it looks. So let me just first. First, what I do is I try to broaden the peak as much as I can, because you have to, with the luminosity curve, you have to overlay that on top of the colors. So here there are 3 color curves that Mike was also talking about. And if you have the color balanced, then they're all on top of each other, and they can all have their individual widths. Like you know, the blue and the red seem a little bit wider than the green one. But you can individually move these curves. So you can just say, okay, forget about the linked settings. I'm just going to grab the green one and I'm going to move it to the right or something like that. So you can move these colors. I'm not going to do that right now because it's actually well balanced. And then I would like to move this all over to the left a little bit, so that I can, it's because the luminosity curve starts at the lower left. And so then I can overlay it in a nice way. So now I'm going to the luminance curve. And okay, so I want the darkness. There are just 3 sliders, the midtones. So I'm shaping the luminosity curve here. The idea is that you get the curve going up somewhere in where I have these color curves. And then of course I want some decent gain here, which it doesn't do. It's the wrong one actually, and that's this guy here. This guy here controls how bright the real bright stars are. So Alnitak is kind of bright, so I'm just going to squeeze that down a little bit. But this should sort of work. I'm going to move it slightly more to the left. No, that's too much. Okay, sorry. Oops.
Can you put the cursor on the curve and move that part of the curve?
Yes. Oh no, you can't. So you can't do that. Sorry. Okay. Now all you have to do is set the luminosity, saturation to 20%, and you're pretty much done. Let me go to 25%. No, come on. 25, something like that. Apply. And then you should get a pretty decent image. See,
Huh.
that's not bad. But this way, quick and dirty, you've got something nice to start with. And this gets you 95% of the way there.
You know, you tend to do it differently than I do. I wind up taking those curves and put them in the middle of the histogram, but that seems to work out pretty doggone good.
Yeah, I move it to the left because you have most of the freedom with shaping the luminance curve. If you can shape it on the left side, the steepness of the curve and so on. I don't know exactly what kind of math is behind it, but I'd say, you know, this works pretty damn efficiently.
Yeah.
Your luminance curve goes up and it hits the top right-hand corner.
Yes.
If you could pull that down by a little bit, when it hits the upper corner, you saturate your brightest stars.
Right. So the only thing is it always ends up in the upper right.
Yeah,
but
no,
the best thing you can do is this one slider that I mentioned, the first highlight slider. If you move that one to the right, then the curve will go down, and it will actually have a significant effect on Alnitak. I mean, I can show that. I've used it already, as you can tell. Alnitak is not as blown out as on my final image, so these settings are actually pretty good. If you want more contrast, then you turn the midtone a little further to the left. Then you can play around with it, but you know, you can get better results in GIMP and so on, but with a whole lot more work. In DSS, it's really with a few moves of the slider and boom, you're almost there.
That looks easy enough. Were we going to see some things from Robert?
Yeah, no, I'm preparing a program on lunar and planetary photography. So I'm putting that together. So I'll get the stuff over to Tom. Yeah, and I'll just go through a decade or so of what I've learned or haven't learned.
I'd like that. That's where I'm going to start, is with lunar.
By the way, Hank, I had one thought. This is cheating, but with GIMP, I think you can create a brush with any part of the image background. So I thought you could create a brush, and that streak going through the star, you could just like erase it out. You know, that's one way, a cheating way to fix the image. You know, that upper left to lower right streak there. You
Like the healing tool.
Yeah. So it's not too difficult to do it in a better way. So what you can do is, the way I did this one actually is by creating a second layer, and then I manually cut out a section out around this plume.
Okay.
And I blurred and I made the rest all black, and I blurred that section out so it was nice and smooth. Added a bit of gain, and then subtracted it from the original image, and then really it's pretty much all gone.
Okay,
So
I meant that real narrow strip is what I meant. So
the star flare.
You mean the
flare,
flare. Yeah. So that is actually, that problem is caused by my focuser. That is the only asymmetric thing that's protruding into the light path.
Yeah.
And I finally found the extender that I needed to get rid of that. So I found one that I can put on the rear of my T adapter, and then I can get rid of the extender that I had sitting on top of it, and I should be able to get that piece that was extending inside the tube completely gone, and then that flare should be gone actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is three. You said 3 hours, right?
This is only 1.5 hours. This was only one night.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's an f4.8 scope. You know, the focal ratio always wins. So that's why I ordered this f4 Newt. That's still on order since October 1st.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. From Opt, by the way.
You said that was a 6-inch?
This is a 6-inch Mac Newt. And
Yeah,
I love my Mac Newt. It's a great scope. It's an Apple quality scope. Forget about the flares. I'll get rid of those. But it's got a very flat field. I don't have to use a field flattener or a coma corrector or nothing. It's just straight. Yeah, it's a wonderful little scope.
Great.
And who made that that brand?
This it's called the Comet Hunter by the guy David Levy designed it together
Oh,
with
yeah.
Scott
Yeah.
Roberts.
It's a high quality, yeah.
Scientific, and it's now currently sold by telescopes.net, also known as
Ryan,
Woodland
Okay,
Hills.
Woodland
say that
Hills.
again.
Woodland
Woodland
Hills.
Hills. Yes, Woodland
Woodland
Hills.
Hills, yeah.
And it's still only like $800. If you buy a 6-inch Apple, you'll be paying a whole lot more.
You better believe it.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, this I don't have anything more to
It's
show.
good.
This was
It's
kind
good.
of interesting.
Hmm.
Okay, I got a couple if we're not tired of picks yet. Let's see. Can I?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I thought, okay.
I'll say the stop share, but somebody can.
Yeah,
Sure.
it said I can't share. Okay, again, I always have to struggle through my thing here. Let's see if I can find. Show all windows. That's what I need. Okay, here we go. Let's see if I can open from within it. Let's see if this will work. Is that showing?
Yeah.
Yes.
File Explorer showing.
Do you have a image?
No.
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 Okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to.
Choose a different screen to share, a different window.
Yeah, I thought what I could do is go into a file thing and then open it and have it show from there. Now that's probably showing, right?
Yep.
Right.
So this is the Crab Nebula M1 that I did. I think this might have been the night after the last meeting, and it's kind of zoomed in here a little too much. But let's see. Well, anyway, I think it's about an hour to an hour and a half of images, and then I did again, I go on YouTube and was watching a whole workflow that he does with PixInsight. And so I was able to get, some detail in the middle here, which I was happy with. And, this is a camera that's supposed to be planetary. So it's like, not a very wide field of view and not real high resolution. It's like 1304 by 976.
Yeah, perfect for planetaries.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
This is pretty good. I like this.
Yeah, it turned out I was happy. I got the blues and the reds and a little bit of contrast in there. I could have done that, processed it more, but it really started to look artificial. There's always that blend. I mean, there's really artistic thing on processing the images of like you can sort of bring out whatever you want, but you don't want it to be artificial,
Yeah.
So
Here also, what you can try is first removing the stars with StarNet++, because as you are processing this data, the stars are always the brightest. So as you bring out more detail to get the nebulosity to the front, you're also blowing up the stars. And so
Yeah.
I think if you do it in 2 stages, first get rid of the stars, and then process the nebulosity, and then bring the stars back in. And so you would have to use something like GIMP or Photoshop or so, or PixInsight maybe. That would make the stars. And also you might be able to retain the colors of the stars, because typically as you're stretching the image, all the stars turn white and all the color is gone. So, something to think about.
yeah, and it's funny, just with the StarNet plus and some of these other things you're mentioning now. I literally, again, just in the last couple of days, learning with PixInsight, with, I've gone through these things and played with them a little bit, but there's just so many steps to take and so many different settings that you can do for any step. It's definitely a learning curve. So yeah, I'm getting better. In fact, this one I followed through this guy's exact. He calls it his name on YouTube is Celestial Photography, and he's a pretty sharp guy. And everybody's got their own method of how they use PixInsight, but I followed his method and was able to get this. And believe me, I mean, you guys saw last week when I showed, a little video of the with that blink tool of the images, and they were all kind of green and everything. So I was happy that I got this amount of processing out of it. So let's see, I've got another one I was just working on here. Let's see if I have it here.
So on those stars, what causes the blue on one side and the red on the other side? Is that coma, or is that just not being, what do you call it, collimated?
No, it's atmospheric refraction.
Just atmosphere.
Yeah.
If it were chromatic aberration in your telescope, you would see the object surrounded on all sides by a purple color.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, which is kind of interesting because you think refractors have this because they're refracting the light at a different angle.
No, the atmosphere is your refractor.
Yeah, there you go for the.
So you can fix this in Photoshop by making 3 colors, separating the 3 colors, and then registering them over each other, and then putting them back together, flattening it, and that color disappears.
It's funny you mentioned that because I did not do that on this one, but that's the workflow that I'm using now is that, yeah, channel extraction and then channel combination on that. So
I have a question for you guys. When you guys are you're working on your images, you mentioned, Bob, that it was starting to look a little bit like it was fake.
Yeah.
Well, how do you know when you're getting the right colors in the images that you're taking? How do you know when you're going overboard, you're going too far?
That argument goes on at every imaging conference I've been at. People new people say, oh, I just want it to look natural. But in this dim light, there is no natural look.
Yeah. So go to Google Images and look up Orion Nebula, and you will see 400 different versions of what the Orion Nebula is.
Anything, but what you use, the standard for trying to get the natural look, is to go to a sun-like star, G2V, I think it's called, in the sky, and there's lists of all the G2V stars at different magnitudes, and take a bunch of photographs of that star in color, and then it'll show you how much red, how much blue, and how much green you need in your images to get the right color. Because an RGB or an RG, what is it? G2V, that's a sun-like star, and that's what defines white for our eyes.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, that's a good answer.
Yeah. So, I mean, and you quickly come to that realization as you're processing the images is, what is the natural look for this? And you go, well, wait a minute. I even have like human eyes, I mean, it's like you don't have dog eyes or insects can see in infrared, I mean, it's like what's natural is what's acceptable to you really, in terms of how you process these things. Mm-hmm. So this is M78. I was trying to do the reflection nebula in Orion. And I was just playing with this before I ran out of time before this meeting started, but you can do, I don't know, that's blown out there. Oh, now I undid it, but you have this like go back thing. I probably ruined it, but anyway, that's playing around with this thing. And this was I in one night I was shooting Orion Nebula, Andromeda, and this, trying to do them all in one night and getting up, going back to sleep and everything. And I tried to do the Rosette, and so there's like nothing there. Somewhere I have one that has some. Oh, there you go. So this is, they call it the stretch. Doing a stretch image. My camera has a very small field of view, so you can just see part of the center here that I was trying to process with this. And all of these things around here are either functions or images, masks, that you're applying different masks for different things, different images and going through this and statistics. This one guy has a thing where you take the median RGB. This is kind of what you were talking about, Jerry. It was, splitting these and then trying to get these balanced out for the levels for RGB here. It's just some of these guys, they say, when are you done processing an image? You're never done processing. You go back a month later and you start tinkering with it again, it seems like. So here's a luminance, you just extract the luminance and different star masks. So So anyway, I'm playing around with these. I was hoping to have more of these done, but man, it just takes a lot of time to do this. And in reading the book, I'm hoping to get smarter on what the author of the book's method is on this. And what's interesting, I've learned that where this started, PixInsight was in, I think in 2000, I forget if it was 2003 or 4 or 2014, but a guy in Spain, and whenever you process any of these things, a little DOS window pops up. It's got this little process control and it shows you, here's what the thing's doing. So this guy was like a C++ programmer, and he started to put together all these different functions. I've shown this before where you've got just a million of these functions. And what do you want to do? Like this one, like you go, okay, I want to remove green by a certain amount, and then you grab these things and apply it to the thing, and well, okay, exactly what I wanted, So then you can revert back to what you have. But anyway, people started adding these functions, and so now it's kind of a collaborative thing, almost like an open source kind of collection of how they deal with these things. So that's what I kind of like about this, because I think eventually I'd like to maybe write my own image processing routines and see what I can come up with for something that I need. But this one I just discovered today is this one's pretty amazing. It's this subframe selector. So what I did is you load all your frames in here, all these FITS files, and then if you do it by this FWHM sorting, you want lower values of this, and you can eliminate images that come too high in here, and in terms of like picking your subframes rather than just doing it visually, and end up with, and I could have made this a little tighter, pull out some of these too. And then
what does FWHM stand for, do you think?
Full width, half maximum.
Yeah. As one of the parameters, and you see up here all the values for this for each image. And so, basically, as the author said, I could go by signal to noise ratio. You can see that'd be a little harder to pick out which images you want. He likes this and I like this too, because you're picking the peaks here to do it, and it's showing you a bunch of curves, how to eliminate things, noise. Again, the only thing that really stands out is easy. I just learned this today. I learned this like a couple hours ago, so I'm no expert on this, but it's pretty interesting, and this is sort of an alternative to stacking. And you're not using the problem is you're not using any darks or the others, and I prefer the stacking, but I thought I want to see what this thing is and play around with it, this tool. This one, it just takes a long time just to deal with this, and in terms of everything that it does. You also need to know this subframe scale, this arc seconds per pixel that you can get from the stats of your camera, and there's a formula for that that isn't that complex. But so anyway, I'm just playing around with all this stuff.
I'm familiar with that FITS suffix there. I don't know what that is. Is that like a type of image?
Yeah, well, some of you guys know better. It's used to be the standard for astrophotography pictures. Now they have this XISF or whatever, that's a preferred format. It's a format that's going to save a lot of the parameters in the image. That in fact they have like I think it's .fit when you have the file, that you can see your exposure. You can this thing arc seconds per pixel you can get from that file if you can dig down into the data of just a single image of what's in there. And so, when I'm using the SharpCap Pro, that's one of the formats that you can save it in. So that's generally what I've been
okay.
Yeah.
You can cross-platform it. You can go from one to another.
Yeah. You can take an image like this guy, if I want to save it as something else.
You can go into Photoshop, you can go into GIMP, you can go into all those things. You can go from one to another.
Yeah, and this thing you can pick, JPEG, PNG. But the thing is, and here's that XISF that they say it's sort of, the FITS files are supposed to be kind of deprecated in terms of that. But I don't know. It's if this one's that much better.
The big thing, as you mentioned, the big thing about FITS, I forget what exactly it stands for, but as you point out, it's a standardized thing among professional astronomers.
Yeah.
It also has a header information that is just incredibly long and versatile, and it stores all your images about it. And certain programs like DeepSkyStacker, when they look at fits, it has to say buyer in the filter. Otherwise, the DeepSkyStacker will not treat it as a color image. It will treat it as a black and white image. So you have to have you have to actually reflect the camera you're using that way. But it's an incredible amount of information in the header, and you can erase it and write it with a fits editor.
Yeah, and they have that inside this tool, PixInsight. You can get that information. I haven't figured out how to get it yet of where you pull it out from here, but
it's in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Does
So,
PixInsight work with
it would be nice. It would be nice if you could at some point just show a demo of what is good in this tool and what sets it apart from other tools, because this is a tool with 5,000 menus and options and so on. And personally, I think it's horrible to have those 5,000. I would much rather have a basic program that just does basic operations, because all the stuff that you're showing is based on some basic operations. And I would much rather learn the basics than all the scripts that all these people add in. And that may work fine, but it's just a disaster to learn this.
Yeah, PixInsight is referred to as having a very steep learning curve.
Well, but the point being, like, you go, I want to do deconvolution in GIMP, and you go, how do I do deconvolution? Well, you kind of have to invent it yourself for those layers and everything. Whereas this one, I mean, this looks overly complex, and it is. The reason this looks so complex is that I haven't bought PixInsight yet, and I've run out on the license. So I've kept this computer on for days. I've kept the computer on for days. As soon as I log out, I'm going to have to buy it. So I'm like 4 or 5 days past the thing. But anyway, to my understanding, is like, you go, I want to do deconvolution, and GIMP's fine, but GIMP is for processing images of flowers or of horses or of whatever you want, where this is made for pictures.
I understand that, but it's a lot of people use GIMP and Photoshop, and you have to learn it just like PixInsight. And if you learn it, if you're good enough, then it should be no problem to do these things as well. And so having fewer options to me is better than having all these options that are somehow in there, but you don't know what the background is.
Yeah, I have to side with Henk on that. I feel similarly. I think PixInsight, I mean, I looked at it and worked at it for a while, but I thought all the time I'm going to spend learning this, I can be processing in the way I've learned over the years that works really pretty well. And I wasn't sure I wanted to spend all the time just trying to make a minor improvement, on things. So I mean, I think everybody has. I mean, you're in a position, Bob, where you're learning and you go in there and it works for you. That's great. I mean, I think it's very personal. How much you want to get into it and spend time on it.
Yeah. And
it's like AutoCAD. AutoCAD is a huge learning curve. I didn't get into it. So I got a really simple CAD program, and they started basing it on AutoCAD. I was done for. But, once you learn it, you really have a lot of weapons at your disposal. Yeah. So maybe this is like that. So you have a lot of latitude to I mean, there's a million tools, but man, if you get good at it, you can really do a number on an image.
Yeah. It's just at first I was staying away from it for the reason, kind of the reasons you're saying, and then more and more I started watching videos on people using it, and I thought, wow, this is a pretty powerful tool. And the whole point is it's got a lot of stuff here. You do not have to use all of it, and I don't plan on using all of it. But you go, wow, I've got got an interesting tool here. Okay, pixel math. What is pixel math doing?
Yeah.
It's just it's there if you want it, and you don't have to use it. And what guys generally do is they get their own workflow. So these colored ones here are, and I'll set up a little thing of just going through a, you know, simple workflow, but they set up like a bunch of these functions. They go, I want to run this function first, and then this, and then this. And they set up about a dozen functions, and that's their workflow. And then, you know, you don't even have to like deal with this menu or anything. You just go, okay, I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to do dynamic background extraction, and then I'm going to do background new, and so there are a lot of different ways to get at the, you know, a pretty good result. And I think with GIMP, I still have it on my system, and I still plan on using it. It's just a matter of like, I'm trying to assess all these things, kind of like in the same vein as like the equipment that's out there. I'm trying to figure out what equipment I really want, but anyway, it's just, you know, it is what it is, and I'm having fun with it.
So Bob, the script function, I guess, is what automates it for you. So once you get your flow, I guess you could write a script that goes through the entire thing.
Yeah, unfortunately though, image by image, I was thinking of that. I was thinking of doing that and just write one that'll just go bang and go through the whole thing. But some images might, you know, you might have more problem with a background than another one. And some of them you have to manually move, like with that dynamic background extraction, you have to move little points around on the image to say they can't be on stars, they have to be on dark background. So some of them you have to manipulate manually. So you could certainly do that, though. I think you could do it for part of them, you know, for really speeding the thing up. Because these guys that do it, that know what they're doing, I mean, they're just zipping through this thing on YouTube. I sit there and it's a half-hour video on YouTube, and I have the television screen to my right here, and I'm watching it and then doing it as I do it, and I have to keep pausing it and rewinding, pausing and rewinding.
I think that's what Hank is saying. It's a huge learning curve.
It is, and you know, it's kind of a pain and everything that way. But
yeah. Well, you could do a little bit of the ones that are easy to use, and if you really want to take these tools you're learning now, you know, and then you can tweak your images. Isn't that how it works? I don't know how it works. You don't...
Yeah. No, it's you know, however you want to deal with it, you know, with each thing. But so I don't know. I just show it because it's, you know, it's what I've been working with. So, and
who wrote the book that you or Henk was looking at for PixInsight? One of you had a book.
Yeah, I'll grab the book here. It's this guy named Warren Keller.
Oh yeah, I know him. I got that book. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's called Inside PixInsight. So yeah.
Guys, I'm going to have to take off. I will see you next week.
Okay.
Right, Tim.
I was gonna share my absolute misery of trying to get some parts for this bath interferometer. Everything I ordered from the surplus shed was wrong. It's like I'm back to square one again.
Before you leave, has anyone here been able to register for a COVID shot?
No, and today go ahead, Mike.
I got mine.
Oh, good.
Kaiser, Northern California, has their act together.
Okay, I've got a reservation now for June 12th. And that's my priority because I'm over 75.
My older brother and sister both have had it. They've gotten it down in Los Angeles. They have it.
We haven't been able to, you know, I registered to get information on where to go, when it's coming, and, you know, nothing. You can't find anything. No, but we were up at Vaughn's shopping.
Nobody knows anything.
No, nobody. And the guy that's checking me out knew. And he goes, "Oh, you can get one in the Montecito drugstore." He points to a sign.
Because that's where the money is.
Yeah, guy's telling me.
There you go.
You know, but I found that, you know, I'm not going to hold my breath. I don't think there's a chance in hell. My wife tonight, she says maybe in April, and I said maybe in December. You know,
this is really crazy. It's so patchwork. You know, it's spotty all over the place. Would you believe at Trilogy this week they had a public vaccination, you know, for the 80 and over, and then they had extra, and so they told all of Rio Vista, okay, we've got extra stuff, you know, anybody wants to get it. And, you know, half the town went and got it. I mean, it's just,
Did they give you an appointment for the second one?
Yeah.
I don't know if they did. With Kaiser, I do have one. It's on February 11th. So
Yeah.
I've got the Pfizer.
That's my second dose, February 11th also. They came here and inoculated the entire Westminster Village.
Well, good for you guys. You know, you're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
I just don't like
I'm still
how
dodging bullets.
I just don't like how the doctors in the hospital are taking control of this because they are so slow. You have to make an appointment and they seem to want to own this stuff. I'd much rather have them set up the fairgrounds where everybody can just go to a drive-through and just because you get your shot and they keep you
That's right.
inside and so you have to sit there for 15 minutes and that all takes up space. So it's no good to do it inside in a hospital. That's just nuts. You have to be out there and then if people faint after 15 minutes, you just pick them up.
I
What
agree
they
with
ought to
you
do is use some
100%.
old drive-in movie theaters. Everybody
Yeah.
parks.
I've got a
With the
better
cart,
idea.
You
You
roll
have
down.
a dart gun. You have a dart gun. You just walk around and shoot people.
Yeah.
I'll
Maybe
see
they
you
could
later, guys. I
open
gotta
up
go.
some closed laser tag places.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these doctors, they send out emails and they say, well, on a good weekend day, we can treat 400 people. 400? Come on, that's just ridiculous. How about 40,000? No,
Yeah.
that's getting us somewhere.
They had on the
I guess
news about that one place in Virginia where they could do 50,000 a week, and
Yeah.
they only did like a couple hundred because they couldn't get the vaccine.
Didn't have, yeah.
Wasn't available.
Yeah.
My brother and sister said in LA that you stay in your car. They just come up and
Yeah.
I think it was at Dodger Stadium or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you get fries with that too?
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Catch up.
But I think you can create demand by just quickly using up the supply that you have, because I understand that a lot of the supply is still on the shelves here in Santa Barbara, so that's
Yeah.
the bad part.
Yeah.
They have to become much more efficient.
So a final word before we close up, make sure everybody go to that Galito site and fill out the survey on those lights. If you haven't already done that,
Okay.
Yeah.
just give them your opinion.
Well, I'll see you all next week.
Sounds
right.
good.
Right.
Hey,
Guys,
thanks,
appreciate
Okay.
Lisa.
it.
Appreciate your input.
See you guys next week.
Okay.
Very good. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye now.